fuck, we just went. I was trying to keep it as linear as possible, but fuck it. So, Triple One, obviously managing Triple One.
Yeah.
You never managed anyone before that?
No.
So how did you link with them, and how did you meet them and think, if I'm going to manage someone, it's these boys? Or like to take that leap, because it's obviously not the easiest leap to do.
Yeah. So, a couple of years ago now, it must have been 3 or so years ago, I was at One Day Sundays. So like for anyone who doesn't know, One Day Sundays, I guess, was the pivotal hip hop party in Sydney for a long time, for a couple of years. You know, I think it was the first or the last Sunday of every month. You know, it's just a great party. I mean, they don't have them in Sydney anymore because fucking it's so hard to throw any party in Sydney, but they have them in Perth, and I went to one in Melbourne not that long ago and stuff like that. So I guess that was a really important party for a couple of reasons. Well, first of all, it was just like a good time. Second of all, I feel like one day when one of the crews really pushing that bridge between, you know, Aussie hip hop, you know, quotation marks, and club hip hop. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like those audiences were quite separate for a long time. And then, you know, you would go to One Day Sundays and you'd hear Hermitude back to back with, you know, Future, back to back with, you know, Joyride, back to back with Gucci Mane. You know, like, so they were really pushing, you know, the fact that it's just, if it's good music, it's good music, you know. There's no, again, the borders thing, there's no geographical borders to this shit, you know. If it's good music, it's good music. So that was really important. And the third reason I think it was really important was because it was a really good place to meet people. So I met like a lot of my friends at One Day Sundays, you know. One of the first things I did like was, because I met in journalism, like in hip hop locally as well, was with Jackie and Assis and Joyride. So shout out to them, because they've been kind of showing me love for a long time now. But at One Day Sundays, must have been 3 years ago. I ran into a friend, and then she was like, hey, come here, I want you to meet someone. And I was kind of like, oh fuck, really? All right, like, oh, you know, I'm just trying to have fun and don't really want to meet anyone. But then it takes me over, and it's like fucking this like huge Asian dude, you know, Air Max 98s, like whatever, and he's like, oh, this is Marty, you know, he does rap music too, like you know, you should check him out, you should interview him, and I'm kind of like, yeah, well, you know, whatever, like I'm not here to work, you know, I'm just having fun. But everything's work, you know, so work. Shook his hand and you know, had a brief conversation, and then didn't really think much of it, and then, you know, a couple of weeks later, I was just on YouTube, and then I was just, you know, scrolling, and then this fucking song came up, Triple One Doozy. I was like, fuck, it's got a fair amount of views, you know. So clicked on it, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty unique for Australia. I guess at that time you still had like Suicide Boys and that sort of stuff coming up, so obviously that was a huge reference point for them. And I was like, fuck, that was the guy that I met. You know, whatever. And then I think from there, I think Marty kind of like, I think we just started speaking on Facebook and stuff like that, and then a couple of weeks, or maybe like a couple of months, I don't know the timeline, but like a bit after that, he hit me up on Facebook chat and was like,
Messenger.
Hey, or Facebook Messenger, and he hit me up and he sent me a Dropbox link, and he said, hey man, this is Triple One's new EP. I don't know what you're gonna think of it, because it's pretty like, you know, it's not straight hip hop, it's kind of a bit like emo / indie, you know, alternative, whatever. And I'm like, that's cool, you know, like, because I grew up when I was for like all my whole childhood and teenage, I was like into metal and hardcore, you know, and punk. So yeah, he sent me the so he sent me the Dropbox, and I was like literally like fucking blown away. Like,
is this Libertine?
Or the Libertine. It was the Libertine EP, so it was the first one. And every track on there was crazy. Like, it was on a level of songwriting and stuff that I hadn't heard from Australia, at least. Lakes in particular was crazy for me, and that's kind of like the cult Triple One track. Yeah, so like I heard Lakes like kind of like a bit before it dropped, and I was like, man, this is actually insane. Like, this is crazy. So I kept tabs on them, you know. At that point I was still a full-time journalist, so I wasn't really thinking about it. I wasn't thinking about it in that way. But then after that, like, then I premiered Overflow, which was another one of the big singles. I think that was the top end of 2017. I premiered Overflow, and then I guess from then me and Marty were just chatting here and there, and then I guess it was just kind of like they were starting to pick up a little bit of steam with like Snakebite Betty and stuff like that, which was a bit after that. And then I guess by that point I just didn't really want to be a full-time journalist anymore. I was just kind of like losing my love for it a little bit. So I saw them picking up heat, and I was like, hey, do you guys have you know, at that point, you know, it's hard to imagine now, but at that point they had no backing from like anyone, you know, because people didn't get it, you know, like that they were like, so they had the most plays out of anyone in Australia, obviously, if you don't count like Hilltop Hoods, Fundamentals and acts like that, but out of hip hop acts, they had so many listeners on Spotify, but they were all coming from the US and all coming from the UK and Europe. So like no one in the industry was backing them because, you know, they were still playing shows. Like I went to their shows, their early shows at, you know, Good God. They did a show at Cliff Dive, and, you know, there was maybe like 20 people there, you know, and I was like, why the fuck aren't
people latching?
Yeah, obviously, because it's just like, because no one backed them except for, you know, like a very small handful of people, like How. You know, shout out to How, he's been playing their stuff on the Triple J Hip Hop show for years. But besides that, not really. So I was kind of like, there's something missing here. In my head, I was like, you know, these guys, their songwriting and their live show is crazy. They have hundreds of thousands of listeners, but they're all coming from overseas. How do we connect that to a live show?
Yeah.
And how do we make them, you know, Australia's most essential live act?
Yeah.
Because everyone knows that's how you make your money as a musician, you know, merch and live shows. So I hit up Marty. I'd never met any of the other guys at this point. I'd probably seen them here and there, but we never had a conversation or whatever. And then, we just all went out for milkshakes one day, like all 5 of us, and we sat down and I said to the guys, you know, I'm not going to fucking promise you anything. I've literally never done this before. I'm telling you I've never done this before, but, you know, like, I've worked in music for a long time and you know, like, you should just let me help you out. You know, like, I'll help out where I can, you know, don't worry about money or no bullshit like that. You know, obviously this is a trial run for me as well. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Almost a bit of a passion project too.
Yeah, no, literally, because I think in journalism, like what I was talking about before, you have to be passionate about the acts that you're talking about. And Triple One was one that, you know, I did interviews with them, I did premieres and stuff, and I was like, I guess it's like a natural progression to kind of like then say, hey, like, you know, I've supported you for this long, let me support you but in a different role.
Yeah.
You know, so we got started. The first few months was kind of like very casual, you know, I was just doing what I could here and there. And then when Valentine Kid came out, that would have been top end of 2018, I think. You know, that's when we started getting on the radio, and that's when shit started picking up. And I said, hey, like, let's actually do this.
Lock this down,
Yeah, and then I guess the rest is history. We've just been trying to do that. But, you know, I guess my main goal was for everyone to see that, like, you know, there's no one, in my opinion, that does songwriting and production like Triple One. And I don't think there is anyone that has a better live show. That's my opinion, you know. Like Milan Ring and Chillin' It and stuff like that, and 1-4, they're crazy live acts. I think Triple One is, you know, one of the best live acts in the country.
I credit that to the different moods that they tap into. Whereas it's not like Autumn Collection was an encore, like, and that shit was completely different to what Doozy or Show Off would do. And being able to give and take and pull and makes that show so dynamic and so awesome. Yeah,
and that also lends itself to who comes to our shows, you know, like you go to a Triple One show, you'll literally find every single type of person there, you know, there's like older hip hop guys, and then there's younger hip hop fans, and then there's like goths, you know, emos, punks, like alternative guys, and that just makes for like a really like amazing like atmosphere at the shows. You know, like when we went to the UK, it was like everyone there was just like a goth. And it was mad. But you know, like in Australia at least, we have like, you know, like a hugely like diverse crowd, and it's like I don't think you can really find it with any other acts in Australia, a crowd that diverse. You know, like before we come on, we play. You know, the DJ will usually spin like, you know, 1-4 back to back with Rage Against the Machine, back to back with Slayer. You know, like it just makes no sense, but it does. So it's all about, you know, keeping it mixed, and we like to do that in our music and our live shows and everything as well.
And like Triple One are bridging the gap between Triple J and Sydney rap. That circle really like better than almost anyone. So you've got the Triple J audience. Like at Listen Out or at. But at Falls, but at the same time, like Marek Vobolo, where there's like hardcore Aussie hip hop heads who are like
Well, you can definitely tell because, you know, when we play a Falls festival or we play a Listen Out, it's definitely, you know, Butter, Show Off, and Tarlo, which get the hugest reactions, and then we play a headline show, and then, you know, Overflow and Autumn Collection will be the biggest tracks. So I think it's good just to have different audiences and different streams and stuff like that. But, you know, Triple J, props to them because they definitely. You know how obviously I said before, how has been, you know, like I guess he's been a big influence on me, like personally as like a journalist. I guess he's a journalist as well. Mentor type dude. Yeah, but it's like you know, like him doing, and Shantan, so shout out to Shantan and Ebony as well, doing Bars of Steel and stuff like that now, and then, you know, obviously all the underground ciphers and all the grime ciphers that Howe had on Triple J, which was like craziest, like, you know, Alex Jones back to back with Fracture, back to back with Wombat, back to back with Shadow, back to back with Nerve, you know, just like all that stuff it's definitely helping to bridge, you know the gap, and some purists from the underground or fucking whatever might be like, oh no, that's like whack. At the end of the day, it's just like, you know, like it's a platform, you know what I mean? And Triple J, I think they're doing really good things right now, like with all the stuff they're doing.
I think they've changed so much in the past 2 years in terms of their appreciation for hip hop and how to handle hip hop and how to promote rap.
Because it's getting too hard to deny. It's the biggest genre in the world. You know, it is like officially of like, you know, like fucking 2 years ago or 1 year ago, I think it was like that, you know, hip hop surpassed rock as the biggest genre in the United States. Yeah. And obviously us being so indebted to the States, it's like that. I think people are feeling that trickle down, and that gap is closing. And, you know, shout out to, you know, like, you know, you have guys like, you know, Manu and Kid Laroi and stuff like that. They're definitely showing that, you know, Australian artists doesn't have to sound like what you think it sounds like.